We have already seen Units 1 and 2 before this chapter, so today we will read Unit 3 Budget. Subtopic: Concept of budget and budget cycle in India. So let's see our chapter now. Now let's see. Introduction about this chapter. The process of adjusting the income expenditure has been the general trend of human nature. Not only every human being, but the government, business organizations and NGOs also try to adjust their income and expenses. A single item of public expenditure or revenue cannot be examined separately. While public expenditure is the goal of public welfare, on the other hand, the taxes are passed on to the taxpayers. The financial arrangements of the government, utility and inefficiency of the implementation of the activities, welfare and cost should be balanced. Humans wants to make maximum and efficient use of his limited resources available to achieve a decent life. To achieve this objective, he prepares an action plan. He expected to use his available resources to achieve these objectives as planning with the least time and effort to achieve these objectives. In this context, the budget is a tool through which the administration prepares its forward-looking action plan. The basic parameters determine the objective. Efforts are made to establishing combined effect in the objectives and activities of various departments of administration. Thus, effective budget plays an important role in the success of any government and administration. In short, the future plan of the administration is prepared after analyzing the past results and experiences and considering the current trends under the budget. Budgets have become very complex and wide over the last few decades. According to Gladstone, it is nothing longer only related to mathematics, but in 1,000 of ways goes to the roots of the prosperity of individuals, the relations of classes and strength of kingdoms. Now talk about meaning and definition of budget. The budget basically deals with future projections of income and expenditure, in which the future strategy of administration is prepared by taking the work and data executed in the past as the basis and analyzing the current activities. The word budget is derived from the French word budget. The first use of the word budget in the modern sense was in 1733, when the Finance Minister of England presented the documents related to his financial proposals to the House of Commons, Lok Sabha. For the first time it was said as a joke that the Finance Minister gave his budget from leather manufactured bag, opened. From the same day, the word budget started to be used for the financial statement of the government's annual income expenditure. The budget system was developed in the post-medieval era. In this period, arbitrary governance was found in England and Europe. The budget was a statement of revenue and expenditure, but it was considered to be the king's personal subject and state secret. The main reason for this was that the revenue was derived from the king's own property. But during the war, it became compulsory to resort to taxes. As a result, at such times, the elite were given the opportunity to express their views and reactions on revenue resources, especially on war. The principle of no tax without representation was recognized at the time of the 1688 Glorious Revolution. But at that time, all administrative expenses were not subjected to the parliamentary control. The budget plan and budget document is a blueprint of the future work to be done by the government. There is a detailed description of the allocation of budget instruments, proposed taxes to be levied or the measures to be taken. The budget has been defined by different scholars in different times and contexts, which are as follows. President Roosevelt stated in his 1941 budget speech that the budget is merely a description of the work done by the government to the public in the form of budget, and it is the only detail of the amount provided in the form of tax to the government by citizens. According to J. Boyce, budgeting is the process by which the financial policy of a government agency can be decided and governed. According to G. Jayes, budget is a forecast and an estimate of all the public receipts and expenses, and for certain expenses and receipts, an authorization to incur them and to collect them. According to Storm, budget is a document containing a preliminary approved plan of public revenue and expenditure. According to Dymock, a budget is a financial plan summarizing the financial experience of the past, stating a current plan and projection it over a specified period of time in future. According to Munro, budget is a plan of financing for the incoming fiscal year. This involves an itemized estimate of all revenues on the one hand and all expenditures on the other. Now see about objectives of budget. The budget seeks to achieve predetermined objectives at the lowest cost. Preparation of work policy, editing of coordination and controlling functions in an effective manner, setting standards and doing comparative analysis with actual performance, maximizing the benefits of administration and making communication strong and effective, etc. can be considered as the main objectives of the government budget. In other words, the objectives of the budget are to help in mobilizing financial resources for administration, coordinate and clearly determine the activities of various departments of the administration. By coordinating the activities of the departments related to administration, an attempt is made to achieve the predetermined goals with minimum cost, time and efforts. Measurement of efficiency and strengthening the process of control, etc. Now we talk about characteristics of budget. The important features of the budget have been outlined by various scholars in the following form. 1. The budget relates to a fixed period of time, which can be of short, medium and long term. Though, budget is an important tool for administration, which carries out planning and control functions in highly effective manners. 3. Budget is a tool to achieve predetermined objectives and goals. 4. Comparative study of predetermined objectives and actual performance. Thus, the budget is a measure in which positive deviations are accepted and negative deviations are neglected. 5. This is a future action plan. 6. Efforts are made to coordinate the activities of all the departments of administration. Let's see. Important principles of budgeting. 1. Publicity. There should be wide publicity of the budget so that the public, newspapers and public representatives can present their views in the context of various schemes of different taxes or expenses. Due to the proper publicity and publication of the budget, the public and journalists can give their opinion about it. Though, clarity. Every citizen should understand the budget with ease and effortlessly. The significance of the budget is that it should be so clear that the citizens can understand it easily and can express their views. 3. Accuracy. All the information which are based on estimate budget should be submitted sequentially and in detail so that the evaluation can be done easily. There should not be an attempt to destroy the precision of the budget by hiding the facts, declaring the revenue low. 4. Unity. For the financial arrangements of all expenses, all the receipts of the government should be collected in a common fund. Separating revenue is the hallmark of an ideal budget. 5. Comprehensiveness. The entire fiscal program of the government should be concluded in the budget. The budget should be understood by the general public. Estimates of new taxes and new expenses should be made available to the common man through the study of the budget. New loans should be clearly mentioned in the budget. 6. Integrity. The fiscal program should be shaped in the same way as the legislature has made. With the spirit on which the budget has been formed, should also be implemented with the same spirit. The administration should fulfill the objectives set at the time of budget formation with complete honesty and efficiency. Now we talk about socio-economic implications of budget. In modern times, the budget plays an important role in the perspective of the social and economic life of a nation. There was a time when the budget was merely a description of the projected wealth collection and expenditure. It had two objectives. First, that the government had to determine how much money it had to extract from the taxpayers' pockets in order to run its work efficiently. Second, the legislature had to give funding approval. Essentially, in this context, they wanted to know the plan of the outlay. Similarly, in the days of free trade, there was a simple assessment of the budget's income and expenditure. With the acceleration of the concept of public welfare states in modern times, it has become necessary to increase the magnitude and type of government functions. Government activities now cover almost all aspects of life. The government budget is a huge tool by which public resources are planned and controlled in a such situation. Thus, the budget is a tool for the conceptualization of governmental functions, which are adjusted with the entire economy of the country. This affects the development and production, the size and distribution of income, and the achievement of human energy and materials. Through the budget, citizens understand what benefits they will get from government schemes and programs and how much tax they will have to pay. Through the budget, many of the demands, aspirations, needs and interests of the citizens are taken on priority and offering them in various programs. Now see about history of budget system in India. It is often said by some scholars that the budget is a byproduct of modern phenomena, but in ancient and medieval India, there was a provision of budget, and that budget was made in huge detail. Unquestionably, the modern budget system was launched only after when the British government directly took over the reins of the country. In India, the study of the emergence of the budget system and the evolutionary developments can be studied by dividing it into 3 periods for convenience, which is as follows. Now we talk about budget system in pre-colonial period. It is known from various historical sources that there was an advanced budget system in ancient India. The systematic confirmation of this fact comes from the Arthashastra written by Kautilya, which describes the Mauryan administration. This is an example of a good budget system. It has in-detailed and comprehensive rules which related to maintenance, submission and scrutiny of accounts. Every year, the finance minister used to keep an account of the opening balance in the treasury and all the current expenditures, including the projects being run and the projects being completed. Along with this, the details of receipts coming from all the sources and the possible balance at the end of the year were kept. All receipts and expenditure of revenue capital accounts in full and micro accounts. All proposed new and investment-oriented expenditure plans were made and included in the budget. Estimates for the coming year and actual results for the previous year were included in the accounts. The entire cabinet had a secret meeting in which they were reviewed, and their accuracy, fullness and satisfactory nature were decided upon all subjects. Their task was to verify the actual data, check the conformity of the expenditure incurred by receipts and certificates, confirm that the value of every penny spent has been recovered, whether or not he has performed his duty with honesty and efficiency. In order to make the system effective, there was also a system of punishments and rewards. The punishments and awards were given to clerks, high officials, superintendents, and even the auditor general alike. Now we understand about budget system in colonial period. After the advent of British rule, the Indian financial system effectively came under the control of the East India Company. Till 1833, the presidencies of Bombay, Calcutta and Madras were independent in financial matters, and there was no centralized financial system. This situation changed with the Charter Act of 1833 as the right to supervise, direction and control all revenues was transferred to the Governor-General of India in Council through this act. The main intention of the East India Company was territorial expansion, so expenditure was increased due to the war. Huge money was remitted to Britain in the name of interest to the Indian debt, investment on railways and interest on civil and military expenses incurred by Britain in the name of India and maintenance of Office of East India Company in India. After the revolution of 1857, there was chaos in financial administration. After that, British Empire took the administration of India under its control. The financial system became in line with the system prevailing in Britain. Provision of highly centralized financial system and administrative control was made to cater to the imperialist interests. The first formal budget in India was presented in 1860 by Sir James Wilson, the finance member of the Governor-General in Council. At that time, there was no elected legislature in India. When the first modern budget was presented in 1860, the budget adopted by the government came into the effect from 1 May to 30 April. Subsequently, in the beginning of 1866, the financial year was changed to April se March, as it was in accordance with the custom prevalent in Britain. The budget was not even presented before the British Parliament. However, the budget made the Governor-General of the Viceroy's Council accountable to the Council and State Secretaries in London, which looked after Indian affairs as a member of the British Cabinet. The Secretary of State became the primary source of complete power. Now we will know about budget system in the post-colonial period. After the independence, there were major changes in the objectives, policy structures of financial administration. The conflict between aspirations and policies and procedures targeting public opinion and financial administration came to an end in a single day. Unquestionably, the basic features of the Government of India Act 1935 were retained, but there was no inconsistency between these instruments and national priorities. These tools could be changed to suit the changed goals, and the same was done. The budget procedure in India follows the provisions given in Articles 112 to 117 of the Constitution. Accordingly, the annual budget of the Union, which is called the Financial Statement of the Income Expenditure Estimates, should be presented to both the Houses of Parliament in respect of each financial year. The budget shows the receipts and payments of the government in three parts, under which government accounts are classified. Consolidated Fund. All the revenue received by the government, such as customs, excise, income tax, estate duty, other taxes and duties, and the money received by the government from the recovery of loans, are all deposited in the Consolidated Fund. After the approval of the Parliament, the government bears all its expenses with this fund. That is why it is called the Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund. According to Article 267, Parliament has been given the power to set up a fund. This fund is called the Contingency Fund of India. The fund is periodically deposited through laws passed by Parliament. This fund is under the control of the President, and to meet the contingent needs of the country, funds are made available by the President to the government through this fund. Public account. Apart from consolidated funds, there are some such transactions in the government accounts for general income expenditure by the government in relation to which the government acts like a banker. In other words, The money which deposited in the account does not belong to the government, and this money has to be returned at a time to the individuals or officials who deposit it. Therefore, parliamentary approval is not required for payment from a public account. Charged expenditure. Some of the items of expenditure under the Constitution, such as the President's emoluments, the salary and allowances of the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, the Deputy Chairman, and the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha, the salary and pension of the judges of the Supreme Court and Auditor General, loans and interest received by the government, payments etc. are made from consolidated funds to comply with the payment and order of the court. Let's understand about budget cycle. To provide timeliness to executive and legislative processes, the budgeting process is made in a circular manner. In a responsible government, the process of approval or acceptance is very important. There are 4 stages in this cycle. 1. Preparation of income expenditure estimates for the coming financial year. 2. Receipt by Parliament in the form of Revenue Acts and Appropriation Acts. 3. Implementation of Revenue Acts and Appropriation Acts, and budget preparation. The budget formulation process in India begins formally during September-October, 6 months before the presentation of the budget, on the receipt of a circular from the Ministry of Finance. In the different circulars of the plan and non-plan miscellaneous items, the list of the time of sending final estimates and the guidelines for testing the budget estimates made by the concerned department are also given. Enactment of the budget. The budget in Parliament passes through 5 stages. 1. Presentation of budget. 2. General discussion. 3. Voting on demands for grants. 4. Passing of appropriation bill. 5. Passing of finance bill. 1. Presentation of budget. The budget session of the Indian Parliament starts in the mid-February. The budget is presented in Parliament into 2 parts, the railway budget and the general budget. The railway budget contains the details of railways' income and their expenditure and is presented by the railway minister. The general budget is related to the demands of all other departments except the railways. It is presented by the finance minister in the Parliament. Though general discussion. General discussion on the budget starts a few days after its presentation. Normally, this discussion of 3 to 4 days goes on in both the Houses of Parliament. It is a British tradition and heritage. At this stage, the Lok Sabha can discuss the entire budget or any theoretical aspect of it. But during this time, neither a motion can be introduced nor the budget can be put up for voting in the House. 3. Voting on demands for grants. At the end of the general discussion, the Lok Sabha begins the process of voting on the demands for grants, which is not a weighted expenditure on the Consolidated Fund of India. Separate voting can take place for every demand. At this stage, the MPs can discuss the details of the budget. They can also propose to reduce or decrease the demand for a particular grant. These proposals are also called cut motions. These are of 3 types. Policy cut motion. It refers to the rejection of the policy on demand. Accordingly, the amount of demand can be reduced to a certain amount, which may be a one-time reduction in demand or non-inclusion or reduction of any one item in the demand. Economic cut motion. This proposal is introduced to reduce the amount of money in a fixed budget from the point of view of economy due to out of demand. If an MP feels that unnecessary expenditure is being incurred in a demand, then he can present it. Token cut motion. It brings forth the complaint problem, which is under the jurisdiction of the Government of India. Under this, 100 rupees can be deducted from the total amount of demand. 4. Passage of Appropriation Bill. The next step is to pass the Annual Appropriation Bill. According to Article 114 of the Constitution, no money shall be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India without appropriation by the law. In other words, all the expenses and investments made in the context of public welfare of the Government of India are mentioned in the Appropriation Bill. Hence, the Appropriation Bill has introduced so that funds can be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India for the grant and charge expenditure sanctioned by the Lok Sabha. 5. Passing of Finance Bill. The Appropriation Act empowers the government to withdraw funds from the Consolidated Fund, but it has not yet been arranged where the money will come from. Hence, there is a system of collecting money by taxation. A finance bill is introduced in the House for this purpose. The bill contains financial proposals of the government for the next year. The details of various taxes, fees, etc. levied by the Government of India are given in the Finance Bill. Execution of the budget. Implementation of the budget is the responsibility of the executive government. The process of implementation of the budget depends on the distribution and delegation of powers at various operating levels. As soon as the Appropriation Act is passed, the Ministry of Finance advises the spending ministries and departments about their allocated funds. Then the controlling officers of each ministry and department provide allocation and advice to different disbursing officers. Audit. The executive spends public funds which are authorized by the legislature. The government conducts an audit of public expenditure by an independent agency to determine its liability to the Parliament. For this work, the Constitution provides the post of Controller and Auditor General of India. It is his duty to ensure that the allocation of funds to various agencies of the government is done by the law. The rules, orders and procedures to governing such expenditure have been followed. The value of the money spent has been received. Let's sum up our chapter with this. Conclusion. Thus, we can say that there is a long procedure of budget formulation and enactment in India. Many reforms were brought by the colonial rule, especially in 1919 and thereafter in 1935. The system of finance inherited by India in 1947 was highly rigid, rule-oriented and complex. Essentially, it was for the achievement of fundamental colonial objectives and not for the solution of national problems. Undoubtedly, public welfare is the main objective of the budget. Therefore, according to their expectations and requirements for the development of Indian people, the budget is presented every year by the government. In this context, the efficiency and transparency of the budget cycle plays a useful and decisive role. Thus, we can say that the budget is an action plan for the long term, i.e., the budget is the blueprint of the government's activities. These estimates are set for a fixed time period. This period is called the budget period. This budget period can be from 1 month to more than a year. But in general, budget is a one-year financial statement which includes the government's forecast of revenue and expenditure for a financial year. Thank you.